Hey Sarah, so happy to have you on today. So tell us about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Sarabeth Lewis, and I am senior content designer at AppSumo. AppSumo is a longtime client. I used to run my own freelance business, and then this past summer they invited me to consider a full-time role, and I ended up flipping over. So went from freelance content design to full-time in-house at AppSumo.
And walk us through that career journey of one, how you got into UX writing originally, and then also more of the details around that transition into the full-time role at AppSumo.
Totally. Yeah. So my journey begins. I was an English major at the University of Texas at Austin and graduated and was pretty convinced I was going to be an English professor. I wrote a thesis and I was applying to grad schools. And I ended up in international education. So I was helping people study abroad while I was kind of like navigating that transition between undergraduate and grad school. And as I started like seeing grad school, I just kind of like felt like there wasn't a ton of job opportunities. Like I felt like if I got a PhD in English, that it seemed like the job market was pretty rough, and a career in academia would be like a really big uphill battle. And so I started kind of reassessing things. And then I ended up meeting my partner, Alex, just as he was starting a freelance copywriting business. And so he had had a mentor who sat him down and was like, "You're a great writer. You live in a tech city. We live in Austin, Texas. And like there are businesses that need writers. And so you could just write for them on a freelance basis." And it was like, he was just like, "Wait, that's a thing? Like what?" And so he kind of started that. And then as I was applying to grad schools, he was like, "Hey, you're a really great editor. I'm writing this like user manual for the startup. Can you just edit it for me?" And so I would help him on and off, and it just became really clear that one, it was a blue ocean. There's tons of demand and not enough writers in the tech world. And two, that it was actually really fun to run my own business and work with my partner. And so I just kind of like put that dream on the back burner, and really glad I did. It just wasn't a fit. And now I get to write and edit and sort of have gone into the UX design world since then. So yeah, so I started as a copywriter. So we would just write website copy, blogs, white papers, you name it. And with a smattering of other technical writing tasks like that user manual, things like that. And then I think it was, so 2019, I started to see, so that was like 2017. We like got married and went full-time together in the business. 2019, I started to see this thing called UX writing crop up. And I was like, wow, what is that? I'm very curious. I was really interested in design. And so I just started learning as much as I could. I grabbed a bunch of books and just did a deep dive in UX writing. And I was started to think maybe I'll pivot into this. And so I started getting UX writing freelance clients. One of my first clients was like a language learning game based in Europe. And I helped them with a full end-to-end rewrite of all the strings throughout their entire app. And so it was like a crash course that I just like kind of learned by doing. And they were a great client. And I kind of came, sorry, this is a bit long, but I'll just give you the full scoop. So I came at the end of 2019 up against a blocker. And the blocker was that I felt like I was getting clients in UX writing, but I really couldn't speak the language of design as adequately as I wanted to. So the difference between a tooltip and an info tip, or what is a modal, or just, if you work with marketers, you should know the language of marketing, segmentation, whatever it is in marketing you need to know. And similarly, if you want to pivot into product, you need to have that common language and vocabulary. And so I decided to do a General Assembly UX design training, and it was like a part-time 3-month program. And that was like the best decision for my career by far, because I was alongside people who were thinking about moving into a career in UX design. So I got that research and design sort of foundation, and just really learned to speak the language, so I could understand the process, design thinking, all of that. And then coming out of that program, one, it paid for itself very quickly. I got a new client that was like a Y Combinator startup. And they had me, working on different things, and just like that training was a big reason why they hired me, because the tool was a SaaS product within the UX product space. So they were like, we love that you have this experience, come work for us. So they were a client, and then, yeah, I just kind of snowballed, and I pivoted from calling myself a UX writer to a content designer in 2020. And yeah, I was just doing different projects, helping people build style guides, the vision, voice, and tone. That brand side's really, I love that side. And then how that translates to the voice and tone of a product. So then 2021 came around, and AppSumo, I got a big client that had me on 2 enterprise projects. So that was a great experience. One of them was FedEx, and the other one I can't say, like NDA, but let's just say it was probably a FANG company. And I was working on both of those, and it was a great experience. But I was also helping AppSumo, and I personally just found if I had all the work to do in a single day for all 3 clients, that I would do the AppSumo work first. And it's just, I'm really passionate about their mission and vision, which I've helped to form, of opening the doors of entrepreneurship to everyone. And so, yeah, mid-year, it just made sense to go on full time and be a part of the team.
It's so funny. I think that's such a big thing that you said, even though it's more of a smaller note, but for a lot of writers out there, they're working often with many clients or trying to test out many projects. And you should ask yourself, what do you work on first? What do you like to get done first?
Yes,
And
yes.
dig your energy there. And it's just a big clue, because that makes you happy at the end of the day. And you're more, whether it be like internally aligned and your external motivators are also aligned. Yeah, it's a big part of it. Now, when we talk about skills and making you successful at your job, you talked about one is learning a lot of different aspects of design. You also talked about creating style guides and the voice and tone. But talk to us about more of the ecosystem of skills that you need to have in order to be successful in a UX writer and content design position.
Yeah, so great question. I would recommend doing definitely like user experience design training. I feel like you really can't get around that. And there's so many things online right now, from it's called Interaction Design Foundation. I think that's what it's called. Interactiondesign.org. So yeah, Interaction Design Foundation. I would recommend their courses, General Assembly. Just get your knowledge in UX. Like, you can't really do this job without that. I am not as skilled in visual design. So, picking colors and sort of like the nuance of typeface choice and even some spacing and things like that, layout, I'm not as strong at, but to be a valuable asset on a product team and to work directly with like product designers or UX designers, having that QA mind of, hey, typically our spacing is, like at AppSumo, we typically go in like 8-point, increments. And this is not within that, hey, do you want to bump this over? Or this font looks like our legacy font. Do you want to switch this over to our new font? Is having that ability to work and collaborate with product designers and help them is really useful. So definitely UX design, know your stuff, know design thinking, understand the difference between helping a user speak about their problem and solutioning, because those are very different things in this world. And so I would say that's really important. Understanding testing and user feedback is really, really helpful. That's personally, like, the UX research stuff is the most interesting to me. In my role, I do get to speak with a lot of partners and customers and use that feedback to, give insights to the business, and as well as like inform our brand and kind of some direction. And like right now I'm helping to form our personas and who are we going to prioritize as a company versus just manage. And that's kind of like, that's what I'll say is what's really interesting about these roles is there's a conference called Button, and at it, there was a speaker who talked about the 3 layers of working in product. So you can be on the surface layer. And I think a lot of UX writers get stuck at this layer where it's like, hey, I created this design, pass it off to you for some wordsmithing, and then it's going to go to the developers. And you just do a surface, basically edit of the content that's already on these screens. But if you can go from surface to the next layer is structure, which is, kind of being brought in earlier in the design process, during discovery, for instance, having that seat at the table to talk about, hey, where should this content live? Should this be within the UI? Should this be within help content? Having more of a say and more of the expertise to advise on that can be really helpful. And then below that is strategy. So we have service, structure, and strategy. And for me, the coolest part about AppSumo is that I feel like I have a seat at the table to help with some of the strategy work. So whether that's working directly with product managers to flag certain things, so working with them, talking with stakeholders, even talking with leadership to try to kind of help inform some of the product strategy. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. And as you get more senior, it's kind of the move is from that surface to the structure to the strategy. So I forgot your original question, but that's kind of like how I'm thinking about at least the value that I'm adding right now in my role.
It makes a lot of sense. And when you're going through that, I assume that there's probably different channels of communication that you're using. And a lot of it, I would say, is almost tool dependent today. You may be using something like ClickUp or Jira or Figma to communicate. Like, what are the tools that you're using to collaborate with your team on all the different initiatives that you're working on?
Totally. Yeah. So we run on Slack. So that's kind of the foundation. And then we also design everything in Figma. So there's definitely some back and forth. So yeah, designs are created in Figma. Projects are managed in Jira. So we have a design board and all of our product designers have their own swim lane. And then I have my own swim lane. So I'm basically like considered, one of the team. And so there's the backlog, then it gets selected for design. Then it's like, the designer's working on it. Then they assign it to me and it bumps down to my swim lane and the little needs copy swim lane. And then I'll assign it back to them for review. And so that's like a work a day, just, hey, so on our design system, for instance, which we're building in Zero Height, we do that. So one of the designers will work on a particular component, assign it to me, and then I send back to them for a final review by them and our lead product designer. So that's another tool. And then a tool I use a lot is called Dovetail, and that's for user research. And so it's a really cool tool because you can tag different insights and even pull different copy. And so if I'm really interested and focused on using customer user language within the product. And so that's a really useful tool for me to see how people talk about different features or even talk about themselves in their business. What else? I'm trying to think. That's pretty much it. The other one I'll say is find and replace. It's a plugin in Figma. Is I couldn't do my job without that tool. It's just a really easy plugin to help you, change copy. And so if you're trying to edit or update something, that can be really useful as just a check to make sure you've hit every screen that a string might appear on within a certain flow.
Yeah, it's like find and replace, but except not for a word processing editor, but instead you're still writing words just in Figma, and you got to find across all of Figma.
Right. Yeah, Figma can be hard I know there's other tools like Ditto and a few others that help with strings. We don't use any of those at AppSumo, but I know a lot of teams are implementing those things to kind of do more content management within their products.
And the other tool that you mentioned, which was the first time I heard it, was Dovetail.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk to me a little bit more about that tool? Is it an enterprise tool? Is it easy to get started? Is it free for people who are watching this to just go in and try it out? I'll make sure to link to it in the description below the video too. So
yeah, that's a good question. Let me see. Let me go look at their try free. Yeah, so they have some sort of freemium option. It's a free trial. Okay. I I found this tool because of a client I worked with. They used it for their user research, and yeah, I would highly recommend it. The ability to like tag different interviews with similar tags and then go in and look at those tags. And you can create insights. So if there's like, hey, all of our partners are requesting this one feature or experiencing this one pain point, or like at AppSumo, I'm tracking like people are getting hooked to our product. Like they talk about it like an addiction. Like they love AppSumo. They check it every week or whatever. And so I'm trying to just understand that user behavior a little better. So I'll tag those and then create an insight around that thing. So it can be really useful if someone's like working on a certain feature and I wanted to share something that came up in my interview. And I'll say a lot of my interviews and work in this is higher like qualitative insights. Like we just want to be talking to our customers and partners. And so I work closely with marketing and brand and like product to kind of like use those insights across for different projects and things like that. So
Very cool. And one of the parts that I want to touch a little bit upon, and we mentioned it earlier, is because you have a unique journey here, and we don't have enough people who talk about this part of this journey, which is going from freelancer role to working in a company full time and ultimately deciding to do that, right? And how do you go about that decision? And if we can just add, I know, a little bit more context around it, because it's not something that we get every day. And I think it's also the idea of how do you know it's going to make you happy, right? So what are those signs that you should be looking out for?
yeah, that's a good question. Well, I'll just say +1 for freelancing to get started. Companies hire people in a freelance capacity. Like they'll hire you. Like it's pretty crazy. So on Upwork, some of these platforms, or if you just create a real simple website landing page and start to put your name out there and say, hey, I'm offering freelance services, it's like a thing. So I didn't even know that was a thing in the beginning. And then once you build, it's really a snowball. So as you do good work, more clients refer you, more people find you. My partner Alex is great at SEO. So like right now, if you Google freelance copywriter, he's on the first page, which is wild. So he's built the business and built a big inbound engine through SEO to get clients. Anyway, so we had that established, and I mean, things are great, like making great money. I think the upside of freelancing too is year-over-year growth is amazing. You can, it's not 3% a year bonus. It's or like promotion. It's as much as you want to work and raise your rates, you can get paid more. So that's really nice. But for me, I disliked that. I think with product specifically, I wanted a team that I could build with and somewhere where I could really be a part of the team and like help inform that like long-term strategy and build a content design practice. And I just felt like working with one-off clients, I didn't get to see the fruit of my labor very often. I would ship things off and then it would be done. So like FedEx, for example, great client, great like experience. I'm so grateful and, worked on experiences that are used by millions of people. But I felt like for me personally, it's such a large organization that I couldn't like necessarily see, my work in action or sort of like hear directly from the users. And I wanted to be on a mid-sized team that was growing, that just felt like somewhere I could build, I guess. And so AppSumo was a client, and so they felt safe because I knew them really well. And so that just made sense. And I negotiated an offer I felt good about, and made the jump. So, and they're good about like, I can have a side hustle. So if I want to consult on the side or do side projects, I can. I haven't because I'm really busy, but I could if I wanted. So
Very cool. And when we talk about, and it's something you had mentioned earlier as well, which is this idea of UX writing, and now you've defined yourself as more of a content designer, and you're seeing a lot more UX writers define themselves as content designers. And I think it is a more encompassing title for what UX writers do, because it's not just writing.
Yeah.
And can you talk to us about where you see the future of UX writing going? And
Mhm.
is content design a part of that future? And if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, for people who, are word people, we sure do like like get our labels. We have lots of different labels. So there's like, the Christina Halverson content strategy is like, as I understand, the larger umbrella of all these careers. Maybe technical writing is a bit outside that, but content strategy, they're related. And then under that umbrella, UX writers and content designers are functionally the same, as I understand it, or as I call it. They're synonymous essentially. So for me, I as a content designer, I just feel like the title fits a little bit better with what I do, because I want to be someone who's seen as a designer and a design asset versus a writer and a writing resource, I guess. And so, yeah, that title just felt more like, make more sense to me. And I think the movement is there. I have heard that more UK based companies tend to favor content design. And then US is still a little bit more UX writing. But anyway, we're mincing words. Both are great. The future definitely is inclusive. So I think as a field, this field can be very female, very white. So the more people that have, neurodivergence within their background, like, or, people of color, just anyone who kind of has something from the mainstream, I think, as product becomes and accessibility becomes something that every company has to make sure that they prioritize. I think having just people with super diverse backgrounds, the better. So like if your background, yeah, I feel like whatever you can bring to the table. And the other thing I'll say is like, no UX writer, no content designer has a linear progression. I think today universities are starting to offer these courses, but anyone I know is like a journalist in their background or copywriter or a lawyer. There's all over the place. So there's many different voices in this world. And I think the more the merrier. So I'd say that's what I would add. And then the future, I think, is just more of a seat at the table. So, I think it's Intercom says like within any experience, 30 to 40% of the screen is the words. If you think about your favorite app, you're like, even YouTube, go to YouTube, but imagine there's no words on the screen. Like, you might muscle memory be able to kind of figure out where to click, but words are like the way that systems, communicate with you. So whether it's written, voice, however, that comes about, basically that there's communication that happens between a product and a user. And so as content designers, we are the keepers of, those words and helping them, be more clear and usable and embody the personality of the brand that we're writing for. So I think I would love to see content designers brought to the table more and more leadership roles, and just truly seen as the designers that we are, and continue just to like level up. And like this job, the UX industry in general, I mean, like design has been, if you look at the number of, product designers out there, it's a hockey stick, right? So I think content designers are similar. Like there were not very many of us 30 years ago. And today a lot more people are getting into this field. So with that comes, it's sometimes a challenge to have a seat at the table. Sometimes a developer can be dismissive, or leadership doesn't quite know what you do. And so I think it's just formalizing that seat at the table and showing the value of our work, that, hey, when the button's in the right place and the copy is clear, I saw today like an uptick in conversions. Through A/B testing, we were testing a certain flow, and which is a really dramatic uptick in conversions when the experience makes sense to a user. It's so exciting. And so more of that. So just making things better. And for me, like AppSumo is such an interesting brand because we're really, like, our brand is very sassy, witty, funny. Like we're really trying to put a smile on your face. And so I love that because I get to have a lot of fun. And while my focus is making things clear and a good experience. That's my number one North Star in my work. Probably second to that is having fun and making sure the system in AppSumo is an enjoyable and delightful experience for our users.
Very cool. And I know we've covered a lot of topics here today. I have one more question before we go, which is, let's say you're looking to add someone to your team, because many of the people who are watching this video are looking to take their first steps into UX writing and content design. Mm-hmm. What type of person would you be looking for?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'm looking for a learner. So someone who is very clearly just a go-getter, who's gone out and done courses and learned things and tried freelancing. Just get out there, create your portfolio. All of us are just trying to make it. And so I think I'm looking for someone who knows how to learn and knows and has, built those skills. Obviously, the more experience, the better. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I think someone that I just feel confident that I could say, okay, go work with this product designer and build a great experience, be sure that we follow our style guide and which, yeah, we're building into Zero Height with our design system. So someone who can refer to that and use that and, be sure and write in the voice and tone of our brand. And yeah, I think that you're willing to have fun with it and that you're thinking in those, not just a surface, but you're thinking through how can I be a value add in the structure and even the strategy of each given project. So really understanding user needs, really understanding who you're building for and pushing to make sure you do understand that. And, bringing things up like, hey, how might we test this experience to, make sure it's good for our users or make sure it doesn't hurt our conversion rate. So the last piece I'll say is in any product role, you have three balls to juggle, right? There's business needs. So what the business needs, user needs, and technical constraints. And so I would love to work with someone who is constantly keeping all those balls juggling, who is not, unaware that there's technical constraints. Developers are really busy and you can't just overload them with stuff all the time. Sometimes you have to be lean and think, well, maybe we should use a tool we already have or something that we have access to edit versus asking the developers to build something custom. User needs, that's the North Star, right? Does this help our users? And, knowing and understanding that and using research to, improve experiences. And then the business needs, you can't ignore that leadership has, goals they're trying to hit. And if you ignore that, you're not going to make it at a company. So you're constantly negotiating those three things. So that's what I would say. Just someone who's learning and is trying to add value and really understands the delicate dance of product among those three things.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's trying to keep balance is very difficult and setting the right expectations and understanding other people's expectations. And I think it comes back to something we talked about earlier, which is soft skills are very important in being able to succeed in this position, especially a position you're so close to users and trying to communicate with them. Mm-hmm. And Sarah, I just want to thank you so much for being here today and doing this interview with us. And if people want to connect with you, can they go ahead and connect with you on LinkedIn if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, that'd be great. I would love that. Please do.
Awesome. If you're watching this video, make sure to go down to the description below the video. Her LinkedIn profile will be right there so you can connect with Sarah. And again, thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and rock and roll and yeah, go from here.
Sounds good. Thank you.